Yo, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Freedom marchers, freedom family, freedom lovers, and freedom fighters. Snapzilla Gorillas in the building. And we're gonna roll out this here morning paper. We're gonna get this morning paper cracking. Y'all. We're gonna talk about this. Because not very many people are gonna talk about this. Right? They're not talking about this. They are talking about, they're talking about Donald Trump and the whole Jeffrey Epstein situation. You know what I'm saying? Which is important as well. But, we know that they like to lace us with bullshit while other things are going on. Well, you can't hide everything. All right? You can't hide everything. And it's not really like what I'm about to talk about is very urgent right now. But the rhetoric is something new. The rhetoric is new. You understand what I'm talking about? So we're gonna get into that. Xander, good morning, man.
Watch out.
Salute to you, nephew.
Shoulder ahead.
What do you mean, Xander? Well, if you're talking about, live streams, there's two different types of live streams now. There are vertical live streams, and then you have the live streams that you use at a computer. Like if you're going to use a streaming software and broadcast on YouTube, you have that live stream and you got the vertical. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it looks like it might be a short, but it's weird. But it is what it is, man. They got vertical live streams now. So if you are doing live streams from your phone, they call them vertical live streams. Now, if I were to use a StreamYard, then that would be different. Anyway, so what is going on? Looks like YouTube short. Yeah, that's basically what it is. They put it. It's the same. It's in the same algorithm as the YouTube Shorts. So, yeah. So what's going on? What's going on? You guys are probably like, what the hell is a Kaliningrad? What the hell are we talking about? Right? Like, what is this? Well, Kaliningrad, right? A little backstory here, a little background. Kaliningrad is a little piece of land wedged between Poland and Lithuania, right there at the Baltic Sea. So you have ready access to the Baltic Sea at Kaliningrad. Now, Kaliningrad is a Soviet-Russian stronghold, okay? In the middle, well, not in the middle of Europe, but between two European countries. So it is essentially a Russian nation within Europe, right? And it has been this way for like 80 years. For like 80 years. So Russia had control of Kaliningrad for 80 years. And they have basically built a fortress around it and within it. Okay. Now, Kaliningrad is a city where a lot of, you got a lot of people there. It's like 400,000 people, right? It has a population of around 400,000, but it's heavily militarized. Okay. It's heavily militarized, and with its access to the Baltic Sea, it gives them a lot of strategic power over Europe and over NATO. And so, it is now being looked at as a target. It is looked at as a target by NATO now. And NATO basically wants to take it over. Now, we have a U.S. general that works with NATO, right? He is the U.S. Army General of Europe and Africa. He is basically saying that we could take over, right? We can go in and take Kaliningrad from Russia within a matter of hours, right? Just like, it's so easy. Oh, we could just do it so easily. We could just take it over. Yeah, we'll just go run in there, and we wouldn't even have to use air air attacks, right? We would just be able to do it on the ground and all this bullshit. Let me tell y'all something about Kaliningrad. There is a reason Kaliningrad, Echo said it would. Okay. Well, there's a reason Kaliningrad has been under Russian control for 80 years, right? You're talking about it is between Poland and Lithuania, right? Belarus in particular. Now, we know that Belarus is basically they have aided Russia in many ways during this whole Ukrainian war thing, right? And so you have that issue, right? Now, yeah, you could say, oh yeah, we'll just run up in there, we'll take it over, bada boom, bada bing, that's it. No, you have to understand what's there, okay? You have all manner of military equipment on the land. They have their submarines, they have warships, right? And most importantly, they have nukes in Kaliningrad. They have nuclear weapons in Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad might be small, but because of where it is, where it's situated, and because how Russia has been able to fortify it over the years, it would definitely not be that easy to take it over. Now, Kaliningrad has not been, directly involved and directly attacked by Ukraine. You know what I'm saying? But let me tell you something. If Russia believes that Kaliningrad will come under attack, they are strategically placed. There is bare ground. There is bare ground, Echo says. Okay, well, if that's how you want to think of it, what is that? What is bare ground? What are you talking about? Anyway, make sure y'all hit the like button too, man. We got 61 people. Y'all ain't hit the like button. That's cold-blooded. Here's the problem. Kaliningrad is wedged into Europe and is under Russian control, and they have all manner of military equipment and nuclear weapons. So, if Russia decided to get a wild hair up its ass, it would not take much, and it would not take long for them to launch a nuclear missile into Europe or to strike NATO nations, right? The arrogance is what gets me. The arrogance of this country, the arrogance of the leaders of this country that think that we can just run around and do what we want and that nothing's going to happen. Well, y'all are sadly mistaken if you think they can just run up into Kaliningrad and just take it over just because of U.S. military might. The right takes to the Ukrainian if they made a move on Moscow. Well, you could say that, but you have to understand who's telling you these stories, right? The Ukrainian president and the U.S. government is telling you that they're launching successful strikes onto Moscow, but we know that our governments have a history of lying, and if these attacks were so successful, why is Russia continuing to push through Ukraine? Why is that? Oh, because they're launching drone strikes. They're launching some successful drone strikes in Moscow. That has nothing to do with this military outpost in Kaliningrad, right? Now, If, yeah, so Russia threatens to do these things and do that with nukes and all that other shit, right? It does do that, and it hasn't done it yet. But that doesn't mean it won't. Just because they haven't done it yet doesn't mean that they will not. They feel like they might successfully pull off taking over the Ukraine. They continue to push forward because of their hopelessness. That might be true. But I want you to understand what you just said. What does hopelessness bring? Hopelessness breeds desperation. Just because you might have the strategic upper hand over your opponent does not mean that you will just willy-nilly take over what you want to take over. I want y'all to understand what we're talking about. If you want Russia to be desperate, if you think Russia being desperate is a good thing, then that is where the problem comes in. Is that you think that Russia, oh well, Russia's hopeless right now. That's why they continue to attack. Russia's this, Russia's that. That's why they continue to do this, and that's why they continue to do that. The only reason the Ukraine hasn't fallen yet is because of the assistance that they're getting from the United States and European nations, right? But you have to ask yourself, well, if Europe and the United States really wanted to do something about Russia, well, why haven't they taken over Kaliningrad yet? Why are they just now talking about it? Right? Why are they just now talking about it? YouTube hypocrisy is over the roof. So Yanks can have security concerns and Russia can't. That's a great question there, Troll Slavinsky. That's a great question. Well, we already know that the United States, if they don't like the other country, they don't want them to have what they have, right? That's why they attacked Iran, because ostensibly they don't want Iran to have nuclear capabilities, but the United States has had nuclear capabilities for decades, and we're the only country to use nukes against another country. Isn't that ironic? Anyway, so here's the thing though. If you think, well, Russia's desperate, they're hopeless, they're just continuing this because they're hopeless and desperate, well, that's a problem. If Russia has Kaliningrad because of World War II. During World War II, Russia fought against the Germans, right? They fought against them. And, once the war was over, the USSR was given Kaliningrad to kind of help keep Germany in check in case they tried to act up again, right? So they had Kaliningrad to prevent any threat from Germany towards Russia, because they could easily deploy whatever defenses or whatever military forces they could immediately within the country, you know what I'm saying, or attack Germany as needed. That's why it's there. Well, it still serves the same purpose against NATO countries that might threaten Russia. But you gave Russia 80 years to build up some level of military might in the form of submarines, in the form of ships, right? It's at the Baltic Sea, so it has access to the Baltic Sea, right? Where they can get things in and out from Russia, right? It's a strategic stronghold. right? It's very strategic. So if they felt any threat from NATO countries, they can easily attack from within NATO countries. You're talking about Lithuania, between Lithuania and Poland. That's where it's situated. They have nuclear weapons. So if NATO decided to invade Kaliningrad, right? Because according to the U.S. general, oh, it would be so easy. We would do it within a few hours. Well, that would be the thing that would send a desperate Vladimir Putin over the edge. Because it's over at that point. At that point, if they invade and take over Kaliningrad, they have nothing to defend themselves against NATO with, right? They would be that much more vulnerable from NATO countries. They are already paranoid about NATO. They were already concerned about Ukraine becoming a part of NATO, because if Ukraine became a part of NATO, then that would put NATO right on the border of Russia, which is not what they wanted, right? They did not want that. They don't want NATO in their business. They don't want NATO trying to control them, because they are paranoid of NATO, understandably so. This guy says so much wrong with what I'm saying. Okay, well, see, what I'm saying is what is being reported. He says this is lazy politics. What's lazy politics?
Watch out, vehicle on shoulder ahead.
What's lazy politics? So what I'm saying is not right. NATO is defensive. Y'all don't listen. What do y'all listen? Y'all don't listen. Y'all hear what y'all want to hear. I said Russia is paranoid of NATO. Russia thinks that NATO wants to take over Russia. That's what they think. What are we talking about? Russia has concerns about Ukraine becoming a part of NATO, because that would put NATO at their doorstep. This is what they're saying. That's what Russia's concerns are. I'm telling you what their concerns are, and I'm telling you why Kaliningrad is a very important strategic piece of land that keeps NATO in check as far as Russia's concerned. Right? NATO wants to take it over to weaken Russia's position. It will weaken Russia's position. It will take them out of play. And guess what? They would much more easily be able to do what they wanted with Russia. This is what Russia believes. And they're wise to believe this. What? So, y'all saying that I'm, what? What are we talking about? You say NATO is defensive. Well, I'll say that if you believe NATO is defensive, then why are they talking about invading another country? Because defensive groups, right? Defensive organizations, like you say NATO is, would not be talking about invading Kaliningrad and trying to take it over. That is not defensive. That is offensive. Russia has not attacked a NATO nation yet. Ukraine is not a NATO nation. The Ukraine was a part of the USSR before it got broken up in the 80s, when the wall came down and all that good shit. When the Cold War ended, this is what happened. This guy says yet. So the logic that you guys are running with, not all of you, the logic that you're running with is that, well, in 80 years, Russia has not attacked us from Kaliningrad. But even when they invaded the Ukraine, and even when NATO nations started to give weapons and resources to Ukraine to fight against Russia, even when they started using NATO and United States weapons to attack Moscow, they still did not attack from Kaliningrad. Up until this point, they have not used Kaliningrad to attack any NATO nations. They have not used Kaliningrad to attack the Ukraine. Because Kaliningrad is a defensive position. But no, in y'all's minds, no, well, it's okay. NATO is a defensive nation, but they can go ahead and invade Kaliningrad, kill thousands of Russian troops, and take it over, and that would be defensive to y'all. That would be defensive. Russia has not demonstrated that they would use Kaliningrad in an offensive. Right? They have not demonstrated that. Right? There's a port there. They might get things in and out. Right? They use the Baltic Sea to maneuver, but they're not attacking from Kaliningrad. That would be stupid. It would be dumb to attack from Kaliningrad at this point in time, because Kaliningrad is positioned there for a completely different purpose than trying to take over and invade and be in war with Ukraine. Now, if they start attacking from Kaliningrad, that means that they are getting desperate, and it could be a big problem. But if they attack Kaliningrad, if NATO attacks Kaliningrad, I swear sometimes y'all deliberately act in ignorance. This dude, Chris Sinclair, says NATO is not a nation. Oh my God. When have I said that NATO is a nation? When did I say NATO was a nation? Did I say NATO was a country? Did I ever say that NATO is a country? I mean, come on, man. I said NATO nations. NATO nations. NATO is made up of nations coming together to form basically a world police type situation, right? Where they can go around and assert their will and do what they want, right? It gives them, in their mind, it gives them a position of power over other superpowers that oppose the United States and that oppose many European nations. That's what NATO's there for. NATO, right? I never said NATO was a nation. Where did y'all hear that? I said NATO nations. NATO nations. NATO nations. Just like the World Health Organization is made up of leaders from different nations. Like what? Right? I mean, where are we doing here? Dude, NATO's not a nation. Anyway, so if Russia starts attacking from Kaliningrad, that means that they're getting desperate. And if they're attacking from Kaliningrad, that means that they're probably attacking NATO nations, not the nation of NATO. All right? Like, do you not understand how how sentence structures work? Like, what are we doing here? I mean, I'm a drone plant pilot and sapper, and I'm in Ukraine now. You know stuff. Oh, for sure. Good for you, bro. Good for you, man. I'm glad you out there making things happen. No, listen. Why are we trying to take over Kaliningrad? That's the question. Why are we doing this? Why are we talking about running up into Kaliningrad as a U.S. general, right? Yeah, you're a U.S. general that works with NATO, but why are we talking about that? NATO is supposed to be defensive like this, like another individual said. Well, then we have listen. It's we have gone far enough. We have gone much too far, giving the Ukraine all this military equipment and all this money, hundreds of billions of dollars over the years. Oh, hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money. I did not agree to that. But no one consulted me. Did your politicians consult you before they decided to send your money to the Ukraine? Did they ask you, hey, what do you guys think? No, they don't ask you. They just do shit, right? They get together in their little Senate office and their Senate buildings and their congressman buildings and all that shit, and they wax on and on and on. They wax political about why they got to help the Ukraine and why this is that and that and this is this. Why we should be so concerned with this? And they send hundreds of billions of dollars of our money over there to the Ukraine to help them fight Russia off. Well, you think that they would be doing a good thing. You would think that, well, that's the right thing to do. Now, Russia should not have been invading the Ukraine. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with Russia invading Ukraine in the first place. I didn't agree with them annexing Georgia. I didn't agree with that all those years ago. I didn't. But hey, you know, this is what happens, right? When you don't equip your people and you don't empower your people to defend themselves, you make them easy targets for countries like Russia. Y'all remember what happened when they thought Russia was going to invade? Well, the people of Ukraine did not have the right to keep and bear arms. They did not have the right to keep and bear arms. And this is well understood by the Ukrainian government. Well, guess what happened? They were like, oh shit, we gonna need help. Oh, we gonna need our people to fight off the Russians. Oh shit. So they had 2 weeks to train the civilians to defend themselves against Russian troops. And I know what you're thinking, right? It's the same bullshit they always say. Oh, well, Russia has tanks. Russia has fighter jets. They have this, they have that. Well, what is a civilian going to do with a little AR-15 or AK-47 against the tank? Well, see, that's where you fucked up, right? That's where you fucked up. That is a great question. That's a great fucking question. Because if the United States, right? Do you all know why Japan didn't invade the United States back in World War II after they bombed Pearl Harbor? They were going to. No nonsense, Stucky. Salute to you. Good morning. Oh, look at you. You came up in here again. Mark Foff says your arguments are ill thought through. I'm glad you recognize that. Very few people do. Anyway, do you know why Japan didn't invade Russia and didn't invade the United States? Well, do y'all know what the general said? It was very simple, right? Because he said they didn't invade the United States because, right, they didn't send troops into the territory of the United States. Because behind every blade of grass is a man with a gun. It would be a nightmare, right? behind every blade of grass was a man with a gun. We're talking about the Japanese military that had aircraft, military aircraft that had all kind of shit, warplanes, warships, but they did not invade the United States because a farmer would have a way to defend themselves against their troops. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you invade a country and everywhere you turn, you might get shot by a civilian before their military even shows up. It's going to be very difficult for you to do what you want to do in that country without carpet bombing the whole entire fucking thing. Oh my God, you guys are... Stormy B Man, salute to you. Salute to you, Stormy B Man. This guy says Japan didn't invade because it wasn't feasible, bro. What am I talking about? Didn't I just fucking say that? I swear. Did y'all go to school? Did y'all learn comprehension? What did I say? If Japan didn't invade because they were concerned about the civilian attacks at every turn, would that make it not feasible? Would that not make it not feasible? This y'all got to do better, man. You tell me Japan did not invade because it wasn't feasible. I just explained to you why it wasn't feasible. I gave you the reason. I gave you one reason Japan didn't invade from the mouth of a fucking Japanese general. I said that he said behind every blade of grass is a man or woman with a gun. Every blade of grass. So he didn't invade for that reason, because it wasn't feasible. But here you come telling me, bro, Japan didn't invade because it wasn't feasible. What the fuck is wrong with y'all, man? I know they're trolling, but I mean, listen, y'all got to do better than that. Y'all got to do better than that. y'all are wilding out, man. Russia, if Russia wanted to, see, there's a concern that, well, if Russia takes over the Ukraine, then they're going to continue to spread through Europe. They're going to take over Poland. They're going to take over Lithuania. They're going to try to absorb all those USSR nations back into Russia. And then they're going to continue to go on from there. And y'all believe it because your government told y'all that. Right? But what did Russia tell you? Russia told you that it's because they invaded Ukraine because of, well, they told you because they had the Black Sea, or they wanted certain strategic access, right? They wanted the land in the Ukraine. They wanted access to that land so that they could expand their resources, right? They wanted more resources. They wanted access to more things. And they wanted to be in a better position to defend against NATO, right? So you have the United States government and the NATO nations telling us one story, and you have Russia telling us another. Well, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle between that. The truth, well, that's not something that they're going to tell you. That's something that you have to think about. G Loves G says, love from Australia. See, I get on here and I tell y'all what's being reported, and y'all get mad at me because I use common sense and I try to connect the dots to make it make sense to people. Y'all get mad at me. I'm just telling y'all what's reported and what I think about what's being reported. What do I know about Kaliningrad? Y'all think I did that shit just popped up in my head? Y'all thinking let me make up a story today about Kaliningrad. I'm projecting stress. But y'all love to watch me though. Y'all love to be up in here making comments and getting my attention. It's okay though. Yeah, I'm projecting stress. Okay. Sure. Whatever you say. Y'all gonna believe what you want to believe. But at the end of the day, y'all are in my comment section listening. So this is what I suggest. Draw your own conclusions. Go and look it up. Go look up Kaliningrad and go look at what they're talking about doing to Kaliningrad. They're talking about invading Kaliningrad, but then you also have to understand what's in Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad is a Russian country, right? It's part of Russia. It's heavily militarized, and they have nuclear weapons there. Right? They have nuclear weapons there. It was given to Russia basically after World War II, right? After that bullshit. Because guess what? Russia was involved. Russia was involved in World War II against Germany. So they took over Kaliningrad to ensure that Nazi Germany wouldn't be a problem again, but they held on to it for 80 years and were able to fortify it. Oh yeah, sure, they took it. Okay. They were able to fortify the shit out of it. It's heavily militarized. They have submarines within the Baltic Sea. They have, it's a strategic position. But they have nuclear weapons there, and they have 10,000 Russian troops. 10,000. Well, Terry myself, so I understand these things. Right? But it's okay. Y'all don't have to believe it. But there's a reason a U.S. general is talking about trying to invade Kaliningrad, and they're trying to say, oh, it would be so easy. It would be so easy. And that gives you guys, that puts you guys at ease. Oh, well, it's no problem then. A United States official said it would be easy to take over Kaliningrad. Okay. But they have nuclear weapons. They have nuclear weapons. They have they have missiles, right? To launch them in. It's heavily militarized. And they have been there for 80 years. And no one's fucked with it for 80 years. Through all the hostility with NATO, with all the rhetoric between NATO and between Russia, between the United States, over the years, through the Cold War. The Cold War, Kaliningrad was in place and no one fucked with it. Why is that? Now, somebody is threatening to invade it, and they think, well, we just walk up in there and take it over. This dude is stress personified. Actually, I have very low stress. I have very low stress. Poo-poo head, LOL. I have very low stress. It's okay. Imagine China at our border. Well, they might try one day. But we have to understand mutually assured destruction. See, this is why Russia, China, the United States, North Korea, Iran, well, not really Iran, Israel, other European nations, all the nuclear powers. There's a reason we haven't been at war with each other yet. It's called mutually assured destruction, right? Because we don't want one nuclear power to fight against another nuclear power, and then one of those nuclear powers gets a wild hair up their ass and tries to launch a nuke. Then all of a sudden we have to launch a nuke to counter their nuke. And now there's hundreds of nukes flying around. Well, what happens then? Well, you get all these nukes flying around. I mean, that's the end of the world right there. You're talking about nuclear winter. You're talking about the end of days. That's mutually assured destruction. This is what these nations understand. Like, if we do this, well, we're going to end the world essentially, and we don't want to do that. So guess what? They don't fuck with each other like that. What do they do instead? They have these proxy wars between other countries, right? They have proxy wars, right? So if they want something, if one of these nuclear powers is aligned with a non-nuclear power, one of the lesser countries, and another nuclear power wants something that country has, well, they'll start a war between two lesser nations that don't have nuclear powers, that don't have nuclear capability, and they get to fight it out. They fight it out, and then we step in. Look, we're going to help this country against that country. And then at the end of the day, we get what we wanted, right? So that's how that works. That's how these countries go to war with each other, by proxy. But hey, I'm just a nut basket, right? I don't know what I'm talking about. It's okay, though. See, some of y'all will understand what the message is. Anyway, I got to get out of here. Much love, like, share, subscribe, and we're going to keep marching forward toward freedom. Peace.